Sveiki, mīļie draugi! Hi dear friends! Mani sauc Elizabete Spīla. My name is Liza Spīla. Un šodien ir mūsu pirmā stunda. And today we have our first class where we are going to study the Latvian alphabet together with the reading rules, learn everything about personal pronouns, discuss the verb to be in the present tense. I hope you are ready. Please prepare your copybooks and let's begin. The first thing we're going to study is the Latvian alphabet. Why do I, a full-grown adult, have to study the alphabet, you may wonder? I'll tell you. Statistics show that almost every person, at least once in a lifetime, gets asked a question, how do you spell your email address? Or how would you spell your surname? So let's rather study it. The first letter of the Latvian alphabet is this one. It's named A, and we read it like A. An example of a word that starts with A will be ats. So it doesn't give us sound E or A like in English. It sounds like A. The same letter, but with a special sign above it, is A. What has changed? The length. This horizontal line above it is named garumzīme, which literally means the sign of length. It makes the sound about 2.5 times longer than the initial one. Please compare A and A. Ats, which is an I, and ābols, which is an apple. Letter number 3, B, which sounds like B. Then we have a couple of C and chair. The difference in the way they look is that chair has a little tick above it. The sounds that they give us are not very common. C gives us sound T. An English transcription may consist of 2 sounds, T, S. Or we can perceive it as one sound, S. Chair gives us sound Ch. In English, we get this sound when we write down CH. In transcription, we'll get T and Sh. C, chair, C, Ch. Letter D gives us sound D, which is quite similar to the English D, but sounds a little bit flatter. So try to compare. If you pronounce the English D, you may notice that you produce this sound by touching the palate or even the row of your upper teeth from the inside with the tip of your tongue. T. The Latvian T gets born a little bit further to the middle of your palate. Not very much further, but just a little bit. So compare T and T. Then we've got E. That gives us sound E and E. The long S sound with garumzīme. Another trick about this E is that it can either be wide or narrow. In English, we also have a wide A and a narrow E. For example, one man contains a wide A sound, and 2 men contain a narrow E. The same thing happens in Latvian. How can you tell one from the other? There is almost no way to do this. You should always ask your teacher or check the word up in a special dictionary where there is a transcription, but I can say that there are not many dictionaries like that in bookshops or on the internet, so the most reliable way will be to address to your teacher or to some textbooks that help us learn Latvian. Here's an example of a word that contains narrow E. For example, tēja, it means tea, the drink. Or dāls contains a wide A, dāls, like man. For English speakers, it's not a problem. In English, there are also multiple examples of words with narrow E or wide A. There we go. The next letter will be F, that gives us F. And then comes Ga. It's not G, it's Ga. And the sound that it gives us would be G, never J, only G. The next letter is not very easy to read. The name of it is Yeah. It looks like that Ga, but it has a little comma below it. The same thing happens to the small letter. The way it's called is Yeah. Yeah. And it gives us sound Y. Y is actually not soft G. It's not G. It's something like soft D. For English speakers, it can be a problem to pronounce this Y. First, please train to pronounce the flat D. Yeah, so the English D will be D, and the Latvian D will be flatter. Then make this D soft, which can be rather hard. What you have to do is, again, replace the spot where the sound is produced further to the root of your tongue. Y. Now you touch the palate not with the tip and not with the spot which is close to the tip of your tongue, but with the very middle of your tongue, or even the place which is located a little bit further to the roots. Yeah? Y. 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 When I'm making this sound, the tip of my tongue is actually coming close to the downer teeth. Yeah? The Y. Yeah, so the middle of the tongue gets up and the tip gets down. Yeah, Y. So the letter is Yeah, the sound is Y. And the word that contains this letter or this sound will be ģimene. Ģimene. In Latvian we'll read the last E, not like we do it in English. Then we have Ha, which gives us H. Letter E gives us sound E. So it's easy to confuse for an English speaker. Letter E, which in English is named E. And letter E, which in English is called I. This is E and this is E. The sound that it gives us is E. And it has a pair that looks like E but with garumzīme. E. Short E, long E. Yeah. This letter is not J, it's named Yeah, and the sound that is encoded in this letter is Y. Y. In English, letter Y makes this sound. For example, in the word you, what letter Y gives us is sound Y. The same thing happens in Latvian, but with letter Yeah. An example of a word would be jūra. Jūra. So if you remove this Y, what you'll have will be ūra. So if you need you, then please put this Yeah in front of U. But about letter U we'll speak later. The next letter is Ka. The sound that is encoded is K. And it has a partner which contains this comma below. This is Ha. Do you remember that pair Ga and Yeah? Here we have Ka and Yeah. The sound that is encoded in this soft K is actually not K, it's T. It sounds like soft T sound. What do you have to do to produce it? To recall what you have been doing with this Yeah, and first pronounce T like the ordinary English T, then make it flat T, and finally produce the soft T. What you have to do is, once again, if you get what I mean, the middle of your tongue touches the palate, the tip of your tongue is wobbling somewhere where the downer row of your teeth is located. Yeah, yeah. How do you read this word? Katis, katis. So the third sound will actually be t, katis. How about this word? Putja. The first one means a cat. The second one means a flower. The next one is L, that gives us L. And L, L. Another soft letter that gives us a soft sound. What do? You already know. You just try to recall this figure. You put the tip of your tongue down, you raise the middle of your tongue up. Here is how you get L, 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 L. So in comparison with yeah and yeah, the spot where this L gets born is actually not as close to the root of your tongue. It's still closer to the tip. It's somewhere in between of the middle and the tip. L, 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 L. Okay. Then we have letter M, and it is for making sound M, and there is almost no difference between the English M and the Latvian M. No soft signs required, no soft signs present. The next couple of letters will be N, that gives us N, and N, N, that gives us the soft N. So many soft sounds we have produced today, haven't we? So N in comparison with L is produced closer to the root. N, 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 N. Actually, I touch a spot that is quite close to my upper teeth with the middle of my tongue. N, N, N. It's a place which is like about 1 centimeter from the teeth, up there or back there. I touch it with the middle of my tongue. N, 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 N. This is how I get the soft N. N, 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 N. The next letter is, it's not O, it's the other way around. If you write the transcription of the English name of letter O, you will get two sounds, O, U, O, O. The Latvian transcription will be quite the opposite. You first put the U and then the O. Ua, ua. Interesting, isn't it? The thing is that when the sound O in Latvian is not under stress, when it's not stressed, then it sounds more like A. So the actual picture will look like this, ua. So you write ua, but you in fact pronounce ua. This is how it works. This is how we read this letter, but it doesn't happen this way in all of the words. In some words that were adopted from foreign languages, ua sounds just like an ordinary o. Words like photo, opera, or torte, it's a cake, or mode, this is fashion. In such cases, we pronounce it like o, without the u sound in front. But this borderline between adopted words and genuinely Latvian words is not very clear. For example, the word school is definitely not Latvian. In Latvian, it sounds like skola, skola. So the word for sure is a foreign one initially, but here we read ua, like two sounds, u-a, u-o. So just like with that narrow e and wide a, you'd rather ask your teacher how to read a word correctly, or you may have some intuition further on when you study more of the Latvian language. You will feel whether here should be o or ua. In 99% cases you can guess what there is, not like with sounds e and a. But when you are a student, please consult somebody who speaks Latvian better than you or study some textbooks. Letter P gives us sound P. Then we got R. R. Here comes another difficult piece. You have to learn to roll the R. In English, there is nothing similar. Bad news. Can I teach you to roll the R? I'm not sure. I'm not a specialist at teaching how to do this. But American students have something in common in their language. Like, imagine a word combination like put it in the pocket. I've heard it somewhere. I'm not sure if it's Boston accent or some other place accent or accent of some other place. You may say put it in the bin or put it in the pocket. Yeah, so this T and the vowel that goes next. Together they give something like this rolled R. I'm sorry if I have pronounced this incorrectly. It's not my native language, but yeah, I guess in American regions, in some American regions, we have a similar thing. Or please Google any video where specialists teach how to roll the R. Or try it right now. R, 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 R. The letter is called R. The sound it gives us is R. It's a problem even for the Latvian kids and the Russian kids and the kids in any other countries where a sound R sounds like R. So they are being taught, like, when they are at primary school, or better before primary school when they go to kindergarten. Almost every child complains about this R and can't pronounce it for the first time, but then he or she learns how to do this and finally rolls it. Or not, or doesn't. Some people, even whose native language is Russian, Latvian, Spanish, whatever, still can't pronounce, even being an adult already, still can't pronounce the R. Please train to say R, 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 R. If you can't do it now, just give yourself some time. You'll learn it. It may be a hard work. Then we got S, that gives us S, and esh. Can you see that tick above? Just like in letter chair. Esh gives us sh. In English, you will spell it with two letters, sh. In Latvian, there is just one symbol, s, but with a tick above, esh, sh. The Latvian sh is just like the English one. There is no difference, as it looks to me. Then we got there, that gives us the. It is still a bit flatter than the English t. It's similar to there and d. So in English we say d, in Latvian we say d, in English t, in Latvian t, t, the flat. And what I have just noticed is that this area on my tongue that touches the palate when I'm pronouncing the flat t is bigger itself. So to say t, you need just the very little tip of your tongue, a small spot. And when you say t, you touch it just like, imagine this is your tongue, the area that you use to touch it, to touch the palate will be just like this. So not little tip, but quite a huge area. T. Then we go with oo, and oo. That gives us ooh. No surprise. It's not you, and as you have already learned, if you need you, please put letter Y, the English J, in front. Jura. And this one is not you, this is U. Then we got ve, that gives us v. And in some cases, we read it like w, like W. These are words where this letter V, this letter V, is placed between a vowel and a consonant, or a vowel and the end of the word, when it's the one before the last letter in the word. For example, tavs, it means the father, or tev, it means you, like I ask you about something. Or Dios, this is God. In such cases, you pronounce it more like W, W. But normally, it sounds like V, just like the English V. Then we've got Z. The sound encoded will be Z. And J. The same letter, but with a tick. Yeah, ticks we put above, commas we put below. In most fonts it's this way. So ticks are in 100% cases on top. Commas are mostly below the letter, but there is a small version of yeah, which in some fonts may contain the comma above, but this is not a very common case. So J gives us sound J. J. Do you have it in English? You can either write it down in a transcription like this, ZH, or imagine letter G, G. Yeah. So this J sound may be perceived as D-J. I'm not sure if you have ever thought about this in such a case, but actually it's D-J, and what you need is to remove the D and leave the J. This is where you have J, J. I hope you got that. And seems like the Latvian alphabet is over. You may not have found letters like W, X, Y, but there are some more letters that are not present in the English alphabet but are present in the Latvian alphabet. So please be careful here, make sure you remember them, and let's get to the next subject, which is reading rules. This subject is very closely connected with the first one. Part 2. Reading rules. The reading rules in Latvian are rather easy. We use a thing called phonetic spelling. It means that there is a letter for each sound and we write the letter just like we read it. There are no silent letters or letter combinations that are pronounced not like in the alphabet, for example. So we always read the last E. We always read the E at the end of the word. For example, meitene, ģimene, egle. There is no such thing that if there is an E at the end of the word, then it doesn't sound. We always read it. The stress. The stress in Latvian words is almost always on the first syllable, but there are some exceptions. The exceptions represent some words with a double root, when there are two roots in one word, or some negative adverbs or pronouns. In the first group, we can note such words as labdien, labrīt, labvakar, or paldies. The words labdien, labrīt, and labvakar mean good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, respectively. And what do we see in such words? Labdien consists of two roots. Lab, from the word labs, which means good or nice, and dien, which derives from the word diena, day. What we have is good day, good afternoon. Labdien. In such words, the stress is on the second syllable. The same thing refers to labrīt, good morning, and labvakar, good evening. The word paldies, thank you, also derives from two words. Pal is from palīdzēt, help, and dies is an abbreviated form of Dievs, God. Like, God help me. Palīdzi Dievs. Again, we put the stress on the second syllable. And those negative pronouns and adverbs that we also included in our list. It's not a very big group. Words that we can refer there will be nekad, neviens, nesen, nevis, and similar ones. But they don't happen too often in the Latvian language, at least in the basic course. So we will rather talk about them separately in another lesson. Just make sure you remember that in almost all Latvian words, the stress is on the first syllable. There are also sound combinations called diphthongs. It's when two sounds are perceived as one, or when a vowel sounds more like a consonant. Some examples will be ia. Now we pronounce it perhaps more like ia. Also we have ai, oi, ei, au. So here we just pronounce them together. We don't do it in a discrete way. We just hear something like one sound that is actually combined. But I don't think this will constitute a problem to you, my dear English-speaking students, because in English there are similar letter combinations that we read like in Latvian. Let's get to the next part, which is personal pronouns. Personal pronouns. I, you, we, they, he, she, it. I. S. The sound E is short and narrow. S. You. Tu. You. Tu. He. Viņš. Some people pronounce it like viņš, but this is just the way they say it in some small areas, so we'd rather learn it like viņš. She. Viņa. It. Nothing. The thing is that in the Latvian language we don't have neutral gender, and when we want to speak about some inanimate object, some inanimate noun, then we don't call it with a personal pronoun, but we use another type of pronouns. In English they're also present. These are this, that, these, those, this kind of pronouns. So if we're speaking about the table, it has a gender, it's of the masculine gender, but we don't call it viņš, or we don't call it it because there's no it in the Latvian language. We call it tas, which actually means that, or šis, this. So there is no it in Latvian. We. Mēs. E is long and narrow. You. Jūs. What do we see in this group of personal pronouns? There are two words for you, a singular you, tu, and a plural you, jūs. But there is another interesting thing about this jūs. The plural jūs can also be used if we are addressing our words to a single person, but if we'd like to show our respect, the fact that the position of this person is somehow upper in comparison with you. For example, if you're speaking to a professor at the university, or if you're a child or a young person and you saw an elderly man or lady on the street and would like to talk to him or her, then you'd rather use this jūs, even though we're speaking about a single person, not a group. So jūs is also an official or polite way of saying you to a single person. Sometimes you may find this jūs spelt with a block capital. This is done in order to further emphasize your respect to this person. You can also find the singular you, tu, spelt with a block capital. This is when we want to show that we have some informal relationship, but also emphasize our respect, the fact that we admire this person. So you may also find tu written with a block capital. Then we've got the word they, and in Latvian it's present in two forms. Viņi, which means they, when we're speaking about either two boys or a bigger group of boys, or about a mixed group, both of men and women. Viņi and viņas. Viņas also means they, but this is about a group of ladies. Let's see how it works. If you're speaking about your dad and your granddad, they will be viņi. If it's about your girlfriend and her mother, viņas. If it's about your colleagues at work, where there are both men and women, viņi. If it's about your grandma and her sisters, viņas. Now, I hope you got the way we say it. So, viņi is either for men or men plus women. Viņas is only for the ladies. Right, now you know everything about the Latvian personal pronouns, and it's time for us to study the verb to be in the present tense. See you in the next part. The verb to be. In the infinitive form, it looks like būt. It has the long u in the middle. Now that you are familiar with the personal pronouns, let's see what this verb looks like in the present tense. I am. Es esmu. Have you noticed that in the word es we have the narrow e, and in esmu the sound is wide esmu. You are, singular you are. Tu esi. In esi we have a narrow e. Tu esi. Viņš ir. Viņa ir. By the way, when you were learning the word viņa, have you spotted that ņ is soft? Yeah, there's a little comma below the n. Viņa ir. We are. Mēs esam. In the mēs we have a long and narrow e, and in esam, a is short but wide. Plural you or formal you are. Jūs esat. In esat we have a wide a. They are. Male or mixed they are. Viņi ir. Female they are. Viņas ir. Good news. Any verbs of the Latvian language, when they are combined with personal pronouns he, she, or any kind of they, will always be the same. The form of the verb is equal, both for he, she, and they. Now we are done with the verb to be. I hope you memorize well all we have studied at our first class, and I'll be really glad to see you at the next one. Lai jums ir laba diena. I wish you a nice day. See you soon. Uz drīzu tikšanos. There's a superstition that people who subscribe to my channel and put thumbs up to that video learn Latvian very easily. Just for the record. Write me letters. Bye!